This is not going to become a Gavin Newsom channel. I promise this is not going to become a Gavin Newsom channel. I hope to do philosophy on this channel. I'm doing a little bit now. I hope to do self-improvement type stuff on this channel. I do a little bit now. I hope to do culture war type stuff on this channel. I do a little bit now. But what we have just seen is one of the most unhinged rants that I have ever seen, and I transcribed it because Gavin Newsom is such a slimy individual that if you're listening to him, or God forbid you're watching him, he kind of, talks so concurrently, so kind of in the moment that you lose what it is that he's actually saying, spieling, what's coming out of his mouth. And literally, this rant that he went on with, I believe it was NBC, was manic. It was absolutely manic. And some of the things he said cannot be true. Simply cannot be true. While the entire city is burning behind him, casting a glow that is so strange, it appears that he is posing in front of a green screen, which probably he does. And with the city still on fire, he starts talking about LA 2.0. He's already in his corrupt and weird little brain thought of a catchphrase for it. Now, by the way, so here we go. He's asked about hosting the Olympics. Is the city going to be ready for that? He says that he doesn't have a choice. They're going to have to be. And he says, we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. I believe there's two L's there. In fact, I believe there's... Anyway, we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team looking at reimagining LA 2.0. And we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster. Now, he has to get in a virtue signal. He has to say, we're going to make sure everyone's included. Everyone's included. Because this is going to tip off, virtue signal, dog whistle, the people who he believes still support him, the far leftists, who he believes are still in his corner, despite the fact that their houses have burned down, despite the fact that their apartment complexes have burned down. He thinks that these people still support him. Maybe they do. I can't tell. But he has to nod his head to them. It's not just going to be the rich folks, guys. We've got all the poor folk, too. The second thing worth mentioning here, LA 2.0, we already have a team looking at it. That's basically impossible. Unless it's just a ragtag bunch of absolute morons that Gavin Newsom has as cronies that pick up the trash that he throws down. I don't know who it would be that would have, in this amount of time, put together plans. Look, I have used AutoCAD, the engineering software, and no, I'm not a computer guy. No, I'm not an engineer. It took me forever to make a right angle. There's no way they have plans for a city drawn up already. He is making this up as the words come out of his mouth. As the words escape those bleached teeth, he is making these things up. The reporter presses him once he mentions LA 2.0. He basically says, what does that mean? And Gavin Newsom goes on a rant that I had to kind of figure out where to put punctuation. He doesn't breathe during this time, mainly because he's a lizard person. These are the words, or thereabouts. There's a couple times I probably misquoted a but for a then or etc. We're just starting to lay out. Yes, he has to say this because he has no specifics, because it is not true. He is making these things up as the meager little thoughts escape his mouth. We're still fighting these fires as if it just occurred to him, oh, I got the one thing still going on. I can use that as an excuse to not have to talk about the thing that I just completely made up and lied to you about. So we're already talking to city leaders. We're talking to civic leaders. We're talking to business leaders, nonprofits. The minute business escapes his mouth, he then has to virtue signal back to nonprofits. The minute business escapes his mouth, he has to mention that he's also talking to labor leaders. Labor's not who you want, buddy. You don't want labor leaders. You want actual productivity. You don't want the people who say that you don't want the people who say that they speak for the people who are doing the work of the people. But he can't get around it. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy and recovery, how we can organize the region. Tell me what he said there. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy. I've talked to people who are meeting with people, who are collecting people, who do or know philanthropists. Just people who give away money, basically. And recovery. There are individuals who do recovery? What kind of individuals, Mr. Newsom? How we can organize the region. Nothing has happened in this sentence, by the way. Nothing is, not one name, right? Not one name. And these are people he would love to be able to talk up if he had them. Well, I talked to Kamala Harris, and she's got some donors on the line. We're going to get some money worked out. I talked to Joe Biden. He's got a team of people coming out here from Washington. He would love to be able to say those things. He doesn't have them. He has nothing. He has nothing. How we can organize the region. What, you're going to put everybody in the region to work, Gavin? Is that your plan? Everyone in the region, they're going to work for you because you told them to, because you're a fascist. How we can make sure that we are seeking federal assistance for the Olympics more broadly. Yeah. He goes back to the Olympics. He's got to have that tent pole. But also federal assistance for the recovery efforts. Us, or I think he said there, and how we can galvanize the community with folks who love this community. To really develop a mindset so that the scale we're dealing with, the scope of this tragedy, and responding to it at scale with efficiency, like the executive order I talked about. Time value of delivering projects, addressing building codes, addressing permitting issues, and moving forward to rebuilding and being more resilient. This is nothing. This is a press release. This is absolute. So here's the thing. Oftentimes, when Donald Trump was president the first time, they would do transcripts of the things he said and read them in a flat, monotone voice. A, you can make anyone sound crazy that way. B, we all have to admit, some of the stuff that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, grade A wild. Okay? I'm going to read this in a flat, monotone voice, and you tell me that it does not sound absolutely psychotic. We're just starting to lay out. We're just still fighting these fires. So we're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to city leaders. We're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to business leaders, nonprofits. We're talking to labor leaders. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy and recovery. How we can organize the region. How we can make sure that we are seeking federal assistance for the Olympics more broadly, but also federal assistance for the recovery efforts, and how we can galvanize the community with folks who love this community to really develop a mindset so that at scale we're dealing with the scope of this tragedy and responding to it at scale with efficiency, like the executive order I talked about, time value of delivering projects, addressing building codes, addressing permitting issues, and moving forward to rebuilding and being more resilient. There's nothing there. There is nothing there worth taking from this. Here's the next thing that we have to talk about. Gavin Newsom talks about LA 2.0. Now, I fully contend that idea did not exist before he blathered it haphazardly and senselessly in this interview. I maintain that it did not exist. He had to say something, he made it up, and then he had zero facts behind it, zero numbers, zero names, zero timelines, nothing. Didn't exist. But he said it. So now what does he have to do? He has to come up with these things. There is a story going viral about these fires. That Oregon tried to send down 60 fire trucks because apparently 100 fire apparati, 100 firefighting apparatuses in LA were defunct. Now, they use the term apparatus. I assume that some of that means fire trucks. Some of that means maybe drones, maybe a helicopter. I don't know. They did not get specific on it. But 100 apparatus were defunct. Oregon said, we will send you 60 trucks. The trucks got stopped in San Francisco. This was community noted on Twitter/X. However, the community note states that, hey, this isn't true. The trucks were passed through such and such body shop or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. Basically stating that, yes, the story was actually true, but there was a detail that was mistaken. All of these trucks did not get sent back to Oregon. They all had to get retrofitted with something or other on their way to fight fires, or they would not let them pass. That, it seems, is the truth of the situation. The guy who puts that detail in place, that a fire truck coming through the state in order to help out, because all the ones that we've got are kind of broken, those new fire trucks have to stop and get this thing affixed to them. That's the guy you don't want planning an entire city. That's the guy that, God forbid, when half the state has burned down, you do not want him redesigning the entire shebang. That's the guy that should step down, that should be recalled, that should be out of a job, that should resign out of shame. He won't. Watch this interview. He's, guys, we're still fighting this fire. Hey, things are going to be all right. We've got LA 2.0 on the way. Smooth jazz. Absolute, incredible moron. That's not the guy that you want in charge of fixing the entire city.